If you don't like and subscribe, your girl will.
Truly the darkest story you'll ever hear.
Every town has a dark side. The story that we have for you today, in its simplest terms, can be described as a man who by day was a respected community member, and by night, a psychopathic serial killer.
Oh my!
Wait.
First of all, what was that? I ain't gonna lie, yo. Wait, hold on. Let me hold on. What was that?
Member, and by
what was that? What the? Nah. That look like Caillou in a dress.
By night, a psychopathic serial killer. And for years, he preyed upon the city of Indianapolis, looking for his next victim, to which there were many. 24, in fact, and those are only the ones the authorities know about. Herbert Baumeister was an entrepreneur and family man with 3 children, but in the darkness, he hid a big secret. One that was so insane, we'll probably never see anything like it again.
Oh, heck no.
Hey guys, it's Andrew, and thanks for tuning in to this week's episode of Every Town, where today we have one of the wildest stories, in my opinion, we've ever covered. It's so crazy that the entire thing sounds completely made up. So let's get into it. Head on over to Indy and learn all about Herb Baumeister, his Fox Hollow farm, and the I-70 Strangler.
Oh, freak no.
It was the night of July 22nd, 1994 in the city of Indianapolis, Indiana, when 33-year-old Roger Goodlett left his mother's house to head out for a fun night on the town.
That boy Roger.
He was headed down to 16th Street to a gay bar, and it never crossed anyone's mind and his family that this would be the last evening they'd ever see him walk out that door again. Because Roger never came home that night, or the following morning, or any other day after for that matter. His parents reported him missing, of course, but the police dragged their feet on this one, as they had so many others before. See, Goodlett wasn't the first. He was just one of many young men in this very specific area of our beautiful country who disappeared.
Oh, look at the little donkey.
And going back more than a decade before that, there were many stories of young, often gay men who had vanished without a trace. Authorities were aware of this, suspecting that someone could possibly be taking them out of circulation.
But they didn't give a
were some
fluff.
consistent patterns.
They didn't give a fluff.
But at the same time, there seemed to be just enough differences to not allow all the dots to be connected. Some bodies were discovered, others still just missing persons cases with no sign of where the individual was or might have gone. They also happened over a long period of time. Years would pass, and then another missing persons case, another dead young man found along the side of the road. And on top of all that, the truth was that investigating these cases wasn't the police's top priority. They weren't interested in looking into these disappearances precisely because the victims were gay men.
Facts. I already knew.
They believed that being in such a conservative city, all of them had likely fled to a more liberal place to live their lives more openly. Their rights back then were not nearly as respected as they are today. Some people, both in law enforcement and within the community, were quite happy to have them leave, one by one, no matter what the circumstances. But as the cases mounted, the chatter couldn't be ignored. And somebody was hunting down these men, and it wasn't because he hated them, but because he hated himself.
We'll do 2 Michelob Ultras.
Oh, we just got smacked with an ad, bro.
Excuse me, would you consider playing?
Wait, what's with this music, though?
And finally, in 1994, something changed in this entire case. A story that simply couldn't be ignored, and it blew the whole thing wide open. And that year, a man named Tony Harris called up the police, said that he had met someone terrifying who called himself Brian Smart, though he didn't think that was his real name. The two had met at the 501 Club in downtown Indianapolis. Tony was the one who approached him, and they started a pleasant conversation. Brian said he was a landscaper from Ohio, and that he was in town preparing a half-empty house on the outskirts of the city for a family who would be moving in soon. As the night progressed, he then offered to take Tony to that house for a cocktail and a swim in the pool. They got into the car, and there was a little something in Tony's mind that had him at least aware that what he was doing was a little risky. Brian made several turns as Tony...
Yo, I ain't gonna lie. Is this how y'all moving? Like, just be honest. Are any of y'all moving like this in the chat? Be honest, bro. Like, you just meet somebody, I ain't talking like even if it's just like, even if you weren't even on some, like, you feel me, like you was trying to like hook up on some shy stuff, but like y'all just hopping in like these cars, just like 12 o'clock at night, just like freak it, like I'm in there, and I'm just along for the drive. Like, oh, they gonna take care of me. Y'all doing that? That sounds insane.
Tony tried to memorize the route to the house, but after a while, he just lost track. But they arrived at the property, no problem, safe and sound. And Tony could see it was an elegant house with a farm out back. It was sprawling. And they parked the car in the garage, at which point Brian told them they needed to go downstairs through the basement to get access to the indoor pool area. It was dark and creepy as they maneuvered through the underbelly of the estate. And then, when they eventually got there, Tony saw several mannequins in various poses around the water.
What?
Some of them were sitting in chairs, others laying on towels as if sunbathing. It was weird. And seeing Tony's look of shock, Brian said, "I feel lonely here, and they keep me company."
Honey?
He offered Tony a cocktail, but he refused, not wanting to drink anything, aiming to stay sober for whatever might happen that night.
Facts.
So it was a strange situation that Tony found himself in. It wasn't...
Wait, so like you walk into somewhere and you just see like, it just like, I know it don't feel right. You know what I'm saying? Like, I know like death, just being around it, it don't feel right. You gotta skedaddle. Like, you gotta get out of there.
Wasn't sure if he was overreacting or his gut was giving him the correct information.
Now your gut was telling you
not
right,
trust
man.
Mr. Smart.
Yeah, get up out of there.
Brian wanted to keep the party going and his guests relaxed. He stepped out of Tony's sight for a moment, and when he returned, he seemed calmer and happier. And Tony was sure he had taken some sort of drug. They continued on with their conversation, which put Tony at ease. Eventually, the two started skinny dipping, when things took a dark turn and everything changed. Brian said he had learned a new trick and wanted to try it out with him. He mentioned experimenting with autoerotic asphyxiation. Now he found it to be unbelievably satisfying, and that Tony should try it out with him. The asphyxiation would be done with a hose while he pleasured himself. And Brian lay naked on a fold-out couch in the next room, and he called Tony to his side. Tony went over and began to cut off his air supply as instructed while Brian touched himself. And when he was done, now it was Tony's turn. And Tony laid down while Brian squeezed his neck, only he took it too far.
Yeah, he ain't stopped. He's trying.
And Tony fairly quickly couldn't breathe anymore, started to black out. Cleverly, he decided to fake passing out, closing his eyes and relaxing his entire body. The trick worked. Brian let go of him. He then whispered Tony's name, and Tony impulsively opened his eyes. Brian tried to act natural and pretend to be surprised, saying that sometimes accidents happen with these things, and that he was sorry.
Bro, he ain't sorry, bro. He just
Using
trying to
all the
strangle you.
persuasion he could, Tony would go on to convince him to take him back to the city. He managed to escape that night.
Oh
The
my.
near-death experience left Harris traumatized and convinced that Brian was a deadly predator. He finished by telling police that he believed that his good friend, Roger Goodlet, who had gone missing earlier in the summer, may have had a similar encounter with Brian, only he wasn't so lucky to get away.
Freaking. Oh, I ain't gonna lie, yo. I ain't gonna lie. It's kind of freaky.
With this crucial lead, the investigators intensified their efforts. They now had a name, at least, and a witness who knew him up close. Nothing in their database pulled up the name Brian Smart, so it wasn't that easy. Harris, more than 6 months later, would finally see Brian Smart again in August of '95. Followed his car, noticed the license plate number. A small
Wait, he faked his name. Wow.
act allowed the police to finally find a real name. Brian Smart's identity was revealed as 48-year-old Herbert Richard Baumeister. But Tony's story didn't align with who Herb was, not in the slightest. Baumeister wasn't just a respected businessman in the community, the owner of 2 successful Save-A-Lot thrift stores in the area.
Yo, chat. Why are all these yodis who got all this bread and all these goals and like all this entrepreneurship and all this, bro? Why are they so freaky, gang? Like you would think that like you should be straight. You got a family and everything. Why are you so freaky? It's insane.
He also wasn't gay. He'd been happily married to his wife Julie since 1997, and together the couple had 3 lovely children. As you know, though, looks can be deceiving, sometimes very deceiving, and as it turns out, Herb wasn't just a good old-fashioned family man like he had everyone believing. He was living a double life, and was such a psychopathic killer that he may have killed upwards of 25 men.
What?
Born in Indianapolis on April 7th of 1947 into a well-off family where his father was a successful anesthesiologist, Herb's childhood seemed uneventful at first glance. Nothing probably would have even been noted about it if he had just been a regular guy, but of course, this man was far from that. He showed some disturbing antisocial behaviors from a young age. For example, he had a strange obsession with bodily fluids and enjoyed thinking about tasting human urine. He acted these desires out on a few occasions and would go on to get in trouble in school for urinating on his teachers' desks more than once.
So you're gonna tell me right now that this yodi, in the middle of class, she talking about something. Okay. Today's class, we're going over geometry. Brian, sit down. And he just whip it out and just start peeing in the middle of class. That's what you're telling me right now. Oh, freak.
Also, like so many other serial killers in this world, Baumeister demonstrated cruelty towards animals, finding pleasure in playing with dead creatures and posing them in various unnatural positions, just like his mannequins back by that pool.
Oh, not GG. Oh, not GG. Oh, not GG. Look, chat. If you got a kid, right? And they start playing with dead animals, like they start actually like you walk in the room, right? You like, oh, I'm gonna go see what my child doing, or whatever. You think he gonna be on the game? You think gonna be on TikTok or something like that? And he got a dead pigeon, and he just like He's playing with it like it's G.I. Joe. She playing with it like it's a Barbie. What you gonna do, chat? Put down in the comment section what you gonna do, cause you probably got a serial killer on you.
His behavior worried his father, who secretly had him undergo mental evaluations as he grew up, with the diagnosis being fairly alarming. Paranoid schizophrenia and antisocial personality disorder were a part of who he was. Despite this, though, Baumeister never received proper psychiatric treatment to address his growing deviations. And he just shoved them down, pretended to be something he wasn't, hence why he was so good at living this double life he had created.
Dexter! Real life Dexter! Oh, heck no.
Well, hindsight is 2020. Back then, no one could have imagined what this teenager would eventually go on to do as an adult. And socially, his odd behavior made him an outsider. At North Central High School, where sports were big, Baumeister didn't fit in with the popular crowd.
Check out the new whip.
Tight. How many Bud Lights can you fit in that puppy?
As many Bud Lights as
I
it
know,
takes.
but like, there were signs though. I know he didn't, but like, there's signs.
And he kept to
though,
himself,
Chad.
spending long hours alone without making friends. And these behaviors and social rejection shaped his troubled mind. Baumeister became a misfit who gradually developed a dangerous, disconnected personality from reality. And after a failed attempt at college, Herb struggled through various jobs without finding stability. His inappropriate behavior often got in the way of work. Once, while working at the DMV, he did something that showed everyone his truly disturbed nature.
He peed again.
Baumeister once again urinated, this time on a letter addressed to the state governor himself.
Oh my God.
And this messed up act not only solved the mystery as to who had vandalized his supervisor's desks weeks earlier, but also cost him his job.
Oh my Lord.
After that unpleasant episode, Baumeister found a job at a local, humble, secondhand store.
He got another job, even though he got fired from
Trying to
Ian?
turn his life around, he stayed there for 3 years until he finally decided to strike out on his own and open his own business in the same field.
Okay.
Thus, the first of the Save-A-Lot chain of stores was born, and things began to improve for him as he had learned to hide his dark side very well from the outside world. His sales were good, and encouraged by the initial profits, Baumeister and his wife Julie decided to expand operations by opening a second branch. And with that money, the family also bought an impressive dream property, Fox Hollow Farms,
Wait, he
in
getting
May
that
of
back?
1988.
Hey, I ain't gonna lie.
At first glance, the mansion was a real estate gem. Built in 1978 and situated on over 18 acres of wooded, rolling grounds with a private pond, the opulent estate featured 4 bedrooms, 10 luxurious bathrooms, and an overwhelming 11,572 square feet of living space.
Dang.
The details spoke of true wealth: an indoor swimming pool, fully equipped bar, and luxury features unmatched in their
Jesus.
class. Additionally, the residence boasted a detached 5-car garage
Hey, I'm
with
about
a
to
second
open, I'm
floor
about to open me
terrace,
up a little
perfect for
supermarket.
social events.
So let me get me a little supermarket.
It was so opulent on the one hand, but Herb saw it as something else. With so much space to work with, his wife and kids could be in one part of the home, completely unaware of what was going on in another section, so it was perfect. Unfortunately, this period of prosperity was short-lived, and soon mismanagement caused the business to crack.
Oh, shoot.
Financial difficulties created increasing tension in the Baumeister marriage. Julie began spending weekends at her mother-in-law's apartment to escape the situation. while her husband stayed behind, claiming he needed to tend to the stores. What she didn't know was that during this free time, Herb wasn't going to work or staying home trying to figure out the next move to right the ship. Instead, he went to a whole bunch of gay bars in the city. And there he met and enjoyed himself with gentlemen, dancing to the booming bass under neon lights where he could finally be who he wanted to be.
Oh, so he was gay.
Whenever he could, he would choose one of them. Typically, they were between the ages of 20 to 35. And being a successful and more experienced man, he would seduce them with tricks and promises, convincing them to come back to his luxurious home with a pool to continue the party in a more intimate venue. Few refused his invitations. Once the victim entered the grounds, their fate was completely and inevitably sealed. Upon arrival, he would invite them to relax and offer them a drink. While preparing it, he secretly spiked their drinks with drugs without their knowledge. As they took effect, his unsuspecting victims became defenseless, and Baumeister showed his true and sinister intentions. Using a hose most often, though sometimes his hands as the deadly weapon, he ruthlessly strangled them. That's how he liked to do it, ending their lives in the cruelest of ways. After that, especially when his wife and kids were away, he'd then burn the bodies to erase any evidence. Then buried the charred remains all across the vast grounds of his property, where his children used to play in the afternoons, and they were undoubtedly walking all across these young men.
Bro.
Everybody dies.
Bro, there's like...
Some of us peaceful.
How, though? Like, how, bro? How?
And this was Herb Baumeister's M.O., which he had been refining for years. He wasn't always this clean about it.
Dang, so he really was just like, okay, he knew what he was going to do, but he just waited, bro. He just waited. He just, like, connived, man. And he just waited until his life looked normal. And he just started going,
But that's because he didn't always have Fox Hollow Farms. But by now, he was to the point where he felt like he was untouchable and impossible to catch. Which may actually be why he let Tony Harris go that night in 1994 and drove him back to the city. Ultimately, it was that decision that would lead to his end in more ways than one.
stupid. He thought he was Superman. You're not Superman.
By mid-1996, the house of cards Herb had built up was all but collapsing.
Yo, get this man.
Following Tony's lead, and after verifying the license plate registration, the police arrived at Fox Hollow Farms to find out just what exactly was going on there. And Julie answered the door, where they requested permission to conduct a thorough search of the Baumeister property. They wanted to see the pool area, those mannequins, perhaps the hose. However, the couple adamantly refused. Since the police didn't have any solid evidence, that meant they also didn't have a warrant, and so they left. Not before warning Julie about the possibility of her husband being a serial killer.
Oh, no.
Initially, Julie dismissed such an accusation entirely.
Yeah, she's like, there's
She
no
couldn't
way.
believe that the man she had built a family with could be capable of such a thing.
Yo, you
However,
never
the
know,
idea
Chad.
then began to take hold on her mind. She thought about how just a couple of years ago, it was a disturbing memory, one where her young son came home after playing in the woods with a human skull in his hand. Faced with the horrifying discovery, Baumeister had tried to calm the family down with an unusual explanation. He claimed that the skeleton was part of an anatomical display belonging to his father, a
What?
respected doctor, one he used for dissection to better understand the human body. Julie accepted this explanation reluctantly at the time, but now doubts about her husband's true nature started to bother her. And she had also grown accustomed to something at this point. However, now it seemed really strange. That in over 25 years of being together with her husband, she could literally count on both hands how many times they had been intimate with one another.
Whoa.
Back at the police station, as detectives looked into Herb's
Wait, so every time that she got pregnant, those are probably the only times that he decided to beat it. That's crazy. She said she can count. So they got so like, look, chat, if you got 3 kids, bro. Your wife can count on both of her hands how many times y'all done did you feel me? So maybe he was a little, you know what I'm saying? Maybe he was a little, you know, he was just a little, just a little bit. But he was using her as his alibi, though.
past, their suspicions grew stronger and stronger. They found out about his mental disorders, the urination, a brief stint in a facility shortly after getting married. But they still lacked the evidence they needed to get the search warrant. Tense weeks passed until finally in June, an unexpected turn of events occurred when Julie abruptly filed for divorce and then called the police to search their home. Herb wasn't there at the time. He'd gone on vacation to clear his mind, and Julie wanted to know the truth.
Dang. See, he didn't think his own shorty was gone. The mother of your children, bro. She probably thought he was cheating on her, because like she like, bro, like.
On
You know
June
what I'm saying?
24th of '96, investigators conducted a thorough search at
It's like,
Fox
why
Hollow
the
Farm.
cops pulling
There
up?
they uncovered a gruesome killing field.
Oh my.
Eventually, fragments of human bones belonging to at least 11 individuals were unearthed. The remains, which included charred bones, fragments, and body parts, were a macabre discovery that horrified the locals. To date, 12 victims have been officially identified, each with a personal story violently cut short. Among them was Jeffrey Jones, 31-year-old who was reported missing in August of '93.
Dang.
Jones was identified through advances in forensic genetic genealogy, bringing closure to his long search for his family. Other identified victims included Alan Livingston, who was 27, Emmanuel Resendez, who was 34, both missing in '93 in the Indianapolis area, and 20-year-old Johnny Bayer, Richard Hamilton Jr., 28-year-old Stephen Hale, and 28-year-old Alan Broussard. Roger Goodlett was also discovered. 45-year-old Michael Kern, and 34-year-old Jerry Williams Comer. All these men shared similar physical characteristics and lifestyles that ultimately made them targets of this serial predator.
Dang,
But as it
Chad.
turns out, unfortunately, these men were just a small part of Baumeister's potential victims, because Herb had a whole other life before he purchased the farm at the age of 41.
Oh no. 41?
As the investigation into the disappearances and murders of young men in the Indianapolis area progressed, police started to find unsettling connections with other crimes that had occurred nearby years earlier. And this wasn't just a random accusation. The patterns and methods used by the so-called I-70 strangler seemed to match the crimes now being uncovered related to Herb. For over a decade, this unidentified predator had stalked in the shadows of the city, carefully choosing his victims from among the young and vulnerable men who frequented gay bars. His crimes were brutal. He lured his victims, presumably in a similar way, of promising drinks or drugs, taking advantage of their needs, only to subject them to a ruthless death by strangulation. The mutilated bodies were then discarded in rural areas along Interstate 70, earning the killer his chilling nickname of the I-70 Strangler.
Oh, heck no, chat. Oh, heck no. That's just crazy, bro.
The first victim was Michael Petrie, a 15-year-old boy whose naked body was found in remote Hamilton County in June of 1980. Then Maurice Taylor, a 23-year-old homeless man, discovered lifeless at Weasel Creek in July of 82.
23, 15?
Soon more followed, and 22-year-old Mick Riley's body was located in a ditch after he was last seen leaving a gay nightclub with a mysterious companion. In total, at least 9 more young men found in the area, having been killed in the same type of way, brings the I-70 Strangler's total to at least a dozen confirmed victims. Authorities have been searching for clues about the identity of this ruthless killer, so when they found the bodies at Fox Hollow, the similarities were too much to ignore.
Oh, so
A key witness who was once shown Herb's photo claimed to have seen Baumeister with victim Michael Riley just before his disappearance in '83. And furthermore, the murders attributed to the I-70 Strangler seem to have ceased around 1991, same year Baumeister established Fox Hollow Farm, as if he had simply changed the location to dispose of the bodies.
He definitely did. There's no way, bro.
Though, as of right now, the case of the I-70 Strangler is still open, with no clear proof that Baumeister was the one behind these awful crimes. When Herb found out what the police had found on his land, well, he knew he'd finally been caught. Faced with arrest and the chance of being charged for his awful crimes, Baumeister decided to run to Ontario, Canada in July of '96. And there, at beautiful Pinnery Provincial Park on Lake Huron, he pulled out his .357 Magnum pistol,
Killed himself,
and took care of the root of the problem. In his 3-page note, written on a yellow legal pad, Baumeister expressed regret for ruining the park and failing at his marriage. He went on to describe mundane details of his journey, like his last meal, a peanut butter sandwich, also finding the right place to end this story. However, he never admitted to his crimes, not once, or mentioned any of his victims.
so
He
he wasn't
avoided that
sorry.
altogether, as he had done in his life, without ever having to admit to the evil side that lay within him. Even though Herb is
Pushy.
gone for good,
You so pushy.
efforts to bring closure
Bro,
to
he's so
victims'
pushy
families
for that.
continue even to this day.
Nah, you pushy.
Because after all, his property was sprawling. So who really knows what lay underneath its grounds? Today, it remains an active investigation site. Recently, on May 21st of 2024, the Hamilton County Coroner's Office announced a major breakthrough in identifying some more victims who have been unknown until then. It was actually through this effort that Jeffrey Jones was finally identified as one of the victims. And there are also 4 more DNA profiles that haven't been identified yet, making the total presumed victims 12 at the farm. And what's worse, authorities have found over 20 spots on the property that might have more human remains, adding to the 10,000 bones and fragments they already have.
Dang, bro. My heart.
So, how many more men fell victim to Herb's twisted axe? Maybe time will tell, but maybe not. There is a good chance that out there, no one will ever find a thing, no matter how long they look. It's a truly tragic tale of what this man did, but it should serve as a cautionary story to all of us. But he was a true monster who hid behind that respectability, showing us that appearances can be deceiving and that real demons very much so, walk among us every single day.
Nah,
And
he
they
was
could be your
real.
coworker, your neighbor, friend, even your spouse. Don't let it get you down. Just be aware that the next time your instincts tell you something, well, you should probably listen.
But like, so you're telling me right now that he probably wouldn't have got caught if he didn't let that Yodi go?
So that's it for this week's episode of Every.
So wait. If he didn't let that Yodi go, he would have got caught. Possibly. Or the Yodi was 41. They say he was what, 41, 42? So he was doing this for years, bro. Wait, so was he actually sus? I don't know. GG, bro. I'm glad, yeah. Kill yourself in GTA. Weirdo.